What does it mean to be strong? Today, I want to talk about an anime that has probably had more of a positive impact on my life than any other anime I've watched in recent memory. Today, I want to talk about the absolute greatness of Hajime no Ippo. Our story starts off with our main character, Ippo Makunouchi, a 16-year-old high school student who tries to keep a low profile due to the constant bullying he suffers from his classmates. One day after school, while getting beaten up by those same bullies, Ippo encounters a nationally renowned boxer, Mamoru Takamura, who steps in and saves him from that beating. After being beaten so badly that he passes out, Takamura ends up taking Ippo to the Kamigawa boxing gym. While there, Takamura tells him something that ends up changing Ippo's life. He says that although what those bullies did was wrong, Ippo is just as guilty for not having the courage to stand up for himself and actually fight back. From here, we see Takamura introduce Ippo to the world of boxing, and by the end of the very first episode, Ippo decides he wants to walk a path to become a new person, a stronger person. To do this, Ippo vows to become a professional boxer, just like Takamura. There are a ton of things this series does extremely well, but I find it appropriate to start off with our main character, Ippo Makunouchi. While the series establishes early on that Ippo naturally has incredible punching power, Hajime no Ippo doesn't make the same mistake that many other series do by making him unbeatable because of that one gift. Instead, we get to experience all of the obstacles, setbacks, and struggles our main character faces on his journey to the top. I was particularly impressed by this aspect of the series because it doesn't just focus on the brutal fights and intense training camp Ippo goes through. The show also highlights the effect that pursuing a dream like Ippo's can have on the people around you. One moment that really stood out to me was as Ippo started finding success, his boxing career started taking up more and more of his time. As a result, his mother was left to run the family fishing business largely on her own, eventually becoming sick from trying to shoulder the entire burden herself. It's at that point Ippo is forced to ask himself a difficult question. Do I continue chasing my dream, or do I step away from boxing to support the one person who has always supported me? Just like many of us would do in the real world, Ippo decides that if supporting his mother means giving up boxing, then that's exactly what he'll do. Fortunately for Ippo, and for the sake of the plot, a friend volunteers to help his mother so that he could continue pursuing his boxing career. But the reason I bring this up is because it's incredibly relatable. Every single day, people put their dreams on hold to support their families. People sacrifice passions to take care of their loved ones, pay bills, or step up when their family needs them the most. I don't think Ippo fully recognized it in that moment, but being willing to give up something that you worked on so hard in order to help someone that you love requires a different kind of strength. It's moments like these, combined with the brutal fights and grueling training camps, that made me fall in love with this character. Watching Hajime no Ippo generally feels like watching a boy become a man, a wimp becomes a champion, someone who constantly doubted himself slowly evolves into someone striving every day to become stronger. Now, let's talk about the thing that really sets the series apart, the characters. From characters like Mamoru Takamura, the man who introduces Ippo into the world of boxing, to Ichiro Miyata, Ippo's sworn rival, this series is filled with compelling characters. One thing I have to give Hajime no Ippo credit for that a lot of other anime don't do nearly as well is how much time it spends fleshing out its side characters. We get to understand their backstories, we get to understand their motivations, and most importantly, we get a really good sense of who they are as people. One example that immediately comes to mind is Vorg. Vorg is one of the fighters Ippo faces in Season 1 as he begins making a name for himself in boxing. When he's first introduced, Vorg is presented as this mysterious and ruthless foreign boxer. During one of his early matches, he continues attacking an opponent even after the fight is effectively over, making it seem as if he enters some sort of trance-like state. At first, it's easy to view him as nothing more as a cold, merciless fighter, but later we learn the truth. Vorg fights with such desperation because he's trying to provide for his terminally ill mother, and success in boxing is his only chance to do so. Not only does this make for an incredible, compelling backstory, but it also transforms Vorg from a simple opponent into the protagonist of his own story. And that's something Hajime no Ippo does exceptionally well. This holds true for almost every character in the series, whether it's an opponent, a teammate, or even someone from Ippo's friend group. The show takes the time to make them feel like real people. At the same time, the series somehow finds opportunities to sprinkle in comedic relief. Like when we discover that Ippo's first major rival, Ryo Mashiba, is actually the older brother of his longtime crush, Kumi. Simply put, Hajime no Ippo understands that great stories aren't built on great protagonists alone, they're built on great characters and great character dynamics. And speaking of great characters and great character dynamics, I would be remiss if I didn't speak about fan favorite Takeshi Sendo. After Ippo wins the East Japan Rookie Tournament, we meet Sendo, the West Japan Rookie Champion. During their initial meeting, Sendo immediately expresses his desire to fight Ippo since they're both well-known, powerful infighters. Nicknamed the Naniwa Tiger, Sendo possesses an overwhelming confidence and fighting spirit that perfectly contrasts Ippo's humble and reserved personality. While Ippo constantly questions himself, Sendo actively seeks out challenges and welcomes opportunities to prove himself against the strongest fighters possible. Their rivalry ultimately leads to one of the most memorable fights in the entire series. What makes this fight so special isn't simply finding out who's stronger, it's watching two fighters with similar styles but completely different personalities and philosophies collide. Every punch feels significant because both fighters have worked relentlessly to reach that moment, and both have something to prove. Even after their rivalry concludes, Sendo remains one of the most important characters in the entire series. Rather than fading into the background, he continues to grow alongside Ippo while pursuing his own ambitions. It's just another example of what Hajime no Ippo does so well. Its rivals don't just exist solely to elevate the main character, they have their own goals, their own struggles, and journeys, which makes the world feel more authentic and every victory feels more meaningful. Speaking of victories, let's start talking about the actual boxing of the series, the fights. Now, I won't deny that some of the action sequences are a bit unrealistic, especially when it comes to signature moves like Vorg's White Fang, Sendo's Smash, or Ippo's iconic Dempsey Roll. But the thing that impressed me about the fights the most wasn't the flashy techniques, it was the realism surrounding everything leading up to the fights that impressed me. The series does an exceptional job showing the intensity of training camps, the sacrifices fighters make, and the mental and physical toll that comes along with preparing for competition. One of the most memorable examples of this is Takamura's fight against the world champion Brian Hawk. Leading up to that fight, Takamura is forced to undergo an absolutely brutal weight cut. We see how hungry he becomes, we watch him stop drinking water, we watch him spend days training and sitting in a sauna just to drain every possible ounce of water from his body, and at multiple points, he looks like he's genuinely losing his mind. And honestly, I found this incredibly compelling because this is something combat sport athletes actually experience in real life. Not only does this series accurately portray the harsh realities of weight cutting, but it also humanizes Takamura. Throughout most of the series, Takamura is presented as this larger-than-life fighter who always seems to have all of the answers. But during this arc, we see him suffer, we see him struggle, we see that Takamura is on his own journey to become stronger. Now, it's time to get a bit personal. During my initial watch of Hajime no Ippo, my mother was actually battling cancer. Eventually, she ended up passing away. Growing up, whenever I reached out to my mother for advice, she would always tell me the same thing. Son, you need to be strong. After she passed, I found myself asking the same question that Ippo spends much of the series trying to answer. What does it mean to be strong? For a long time, I felt frustrated by that advice. It felt vague, it felt incomplete. I wanted something more concrete. But after my mother passed away, life didn't stop. The world just kept on spinning. I had loved ones who were grieving alongside me. I had to return to work the following week. My bills still had to be paid, and on top of that, part of me felt weak because I couldn't do more to help my mother during her battle with cancer. I kept wondering if there was something else I could have done, some way I could have helped more. It would have been so easy for me to fold under the weight of all of that. But Hajime no Ippo reminded me of something important. Strength isn't about never losing, strength isn't about never suffering, and strength certainly isn't about being able to throw the hardest punch. Through its incredible characters, emotional rivalries, and inspiring themes of perseverance and self-improvement, Hajime no Ippo taught me that true strength is having the courage to keep moving forward even when life knocks you down. True strength is continuing to push forward even when you're afraid. True strength is carrying your losses without allowing them to define you. True strength is acknowledging your shortcomings and making the conscious decision to improve yourself every single day. To become stronger, to become a new person, to evolve. And that's why Hajime no Ippo isn't just one of my favorite sports anime, it's one of the most impactful stories I've ever experienced.